What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is Assetto Corsa, where today we're going to be running through the Dream Pack 3 DLC, which released alongside the 1.4 updates for this game. As I usually do in these videos, I'll go ahead and run through my least favorite cars in the DLC to my favorite cars in the DLC, and then I'll be driving my favorite car around the new track, in this case, Brands Hatch. So you get several cars, as well as one new laser scan circuit in Brands Hatch. For $10, I believe the regular price is going to be, which is a pretty solid deal for the money, certainly, if you're interested in Assetto Corsa. So anyways, let's go ahead and begin with the cars. First of all, my least favorite car in the DLC, Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera. Yep, I have zero attraction to this car whatsoever. It's all-wheel drive, paddle shifted. It's not particularly fast compared to some other cars. While at the same time, it's not particularly slow and fun to drive in any means. It's just bleh. Sorry, some people will like it. There's also a 1200 horsepower Step 3 version if you need the car to go faster, but at that point the car just goes too stupidly fast to be any sort of fun to drive because you're basically on the brakes 24/7. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of this car. I'm just not. Go ahead, hate me. Next up is the Lamborghini Huracan SuperTrofeo. In case you can't tell, I'm not really a huge Lamborghini fan, but there's nothing necessarily wrong with this car. However, it's somewhat similar to the GT3 cars, which there's already the Huracan GT3 available if you have the previous Dream Pack DLC, which means that there's really no need for this car. This car makes sense in the real world with throwing rich people into these cars and letting them race around, but it doesn't really make much sense in sim racing, and the car isn't particularly different enough. This really just feels like a car that is here simply because somebody in Lamborghini's marketing department determined that, hey, we want to have this car in the game because reasons, more or less. It's not a bad car, it's okay, it's just there, more or less. Next up, we have the Abarth 500 Assetto Corsa, which is basically the 500 turned into a race car. Not a crazy far out there race car with like a V12 shoehorned into the nose, just a racing version of the little 500. As such, it's quite slow. It's relatively fun to drive. It's still definitely, a 500, that kind of awkward handling that this thing has going on. But I'm actually very interested to see what the reaction to this car is going to be online, because typically small, lightweight, front-wheel drive, low-power cars have always been the most popular race cars to race online in pretty much every other sim. So it'll be interesting to see if this car has the same reaction. Could this be, for example, the Renault Clio of R-Factor 2 for Assetto Corsa? Possibly. Interested to see what the reaction will be over the course of the coming weeks. Moving on to the Ford Escort Rs 1600, which I would easily classify, sadly, as the disappointment of this DLC pack for me. It's not that this car is particularly bad to drive. A lot of people really enjoy it. I enjoy driving it. But I didn't expect it to only be on slick tires, which granted, it does have 1970s style slicks, so you can slide around and definitely work the car a lot more than like with a modern slick. So it's still very fun to drive. However, there's one thing that absolutely kills this car for me, and that is the engine sound is so incredibly bad. I can't stand to drive this car for longer than about 5 laps because it's terrible. So once we get a sound mod for this car, which will probably be very shortly, this car is going to go up the list, but for right now, that default sound just absolutely kills it. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys listen to that sound, cover your ears, and run for cover. It's bad, at least in my opinion. That brings us to the Mercedes Amg Gt Gt3, which is one way too confusing name for what it should be. Anyways, it's the GT3 version of the Mercedes AMG GT. There you go. It's a GT3 car, front engine, V8, big power, grunty engine. It is what it is. This is basically the proverbial, it does what it says on the tin car. Next up is the Mclaren 650S GT3. Yay, more GT3 cars. Anyways, this is my personal favorite GT3 car racing out there in the real world, so that's probably why I'm biased towards this car. Hey, it's a GT3 car. They're all pretty much exactly the same, but they're different, but they're still all pretty much exactly the same, and they kind of are what they are, and that's basically that. Moving on. Next up, my second favorite car in the DLC, the Lotus 72D. This car could have easily been number one. In fact, I go back and forth, and it's splitting hairs. This thing is just a heap of load of fun. And of course it is. It's an early 70s Formula 1 car. You have about 450 horsepower, manual H-pattern gearbox. You have the wide, meaty, slick tires. However, they're early 70s wide, meaty, slick tires, so they're not actually all that grippy, and you slide around a lot. You work the wheel a lot, work the car a lot. You have downforce, but not enough downforce to define the car by the downforce. It's just balanced in all regards, and it just makes for such an enjoyable driving experience. This thing is a hoot. This thing is a hoot. If you're wondering how it compares to the Ferrari 312 that is already available in the game, the 1975 Ferrari 312, I guess it is, that car's a little bit faster in my testing, although this car is definitely more nimble, more agile, and more fun to drive as far as I'm concerned. The Ferrari felt a little bit heavy thanks to that V12. That leaves just one last car, the Lotus Type 25, as my favorite car in the DLC pack, as I already mentioned. But it's lightweight, low-powered, not particularly fast, doesn't stop well, doesn't turn well. The tires are absolute garbage, and that's why it's fun. So let's go ahead and drive. So we've gone ahead, fired up Brands Hatch, specifically the Grand Prix circuit. There is also the shorter Indy layout. However, I figure that pretty much covers itself because it's just the same circuit, only with a giant shortcut in it, and you drive right by that shortcut anyways. We have the track grip set to fast, and depending on what experience you're looking for out of this car, definitely go ahead and play around with that track grip setting. For example, if you turn it up to optimal, this car is kind of on rails almost. But then again, every car is at that point. Whereas if you turn it down to dusty, slow, or old, you're just sliding all over the place. Which is fun in its own right, and will definitely teach you a good bit of car control. It's one of the questions I always get asked. How can I slide around better and be more predictable and be able to catch slides and know when the car's going to slide and actually have confidence that if I do start to get sideways, I'm not going to instantly explode into 15,000 different pieces. Practice. And cars like this are perfect for practice. Because for one, you're always going to be going sideways to some degree. And two, if you're not going sideways, generally it means that you did most things correct to prevent you from getting sideways in the first place, which is also certainly quite critical. This is one of those cars that is very demanding. It's going to make you pay attention. You're going to need to practice. You're going to need to work on driving it in most cases, depending on your skill level. At the same time, it's so rewarding when you do actually get it right. This is the same type of car as, for example, the Stock Car Extreme Formula V. If you've been around this channel, you've heard me rant and rave probably about a billion times. The Skip Barber car in iRacing or R Factor 2. Those type of cars that are difficult to drive in their own right, don't really tolerate a whole lot of bull crap, but that's what makes them so much fun. Like, I seriously don't even see this as a historic Formula 1 car. I see this more as slippy, slidey fun time, And to think someone said, "Hey, will you drive the 1200 horsepower Gallardo?" Right, guys? Right? Come on now. Not making fun at that guy, but come on. That's a silly statement. This car is like 10,000% more awesome. So enjoyable. And plus Brands Hatch here. Fantastic circuit for this type of car. For pretty much any type of car except for a modern high downforce, you know, open wheeler. Which even then it's still a heck of a lot of fun. It's just pretty much impossible to pass at that point. But just a very fun circuit in general. Conveniently enough, because obviously this is going to be a question that's going to be asked, so got to talk about it. Conveniently enough, for one reason or another, it just kind of played out that in iRacing, they got the skip barbers at this track, the shorter Indy layout actually, because people are obviously going to ask about the accuracy. It's just kind of one of those things. The schedule for iRacing was announced in advance, so it's not one of those let's show these guys up or anything like that, nothing like that, but you know, the track is pretty much the same. Shocking, I know. Seeing how this thing's laser scanned, so is the iRacing version, and the big difference is the art. That is going to come down to preference. So there's really not much to talk about in terms of a comparison on that front. Now, some people will probably also bring up Project Cars, which also has a laser scan version of Brands Hatch. However, I'll just say this, and this is obviously going to get people up in a fit because it always does. Personally, I've never felt like the Brands Hatch in Project Cars is anywhere even close to the iRacing version, and now here to the Assetto Corsa version. And that's nothing to do with me bashing Project Cars or anything like that, so don't get that twisted. It just feels very polygonal and non-roguelike to me. But hey, it's still Brands Hatch. Brands Hatch is always fun regardless of what you're playing in. Again, you know, I guess the next question people are going to ask is, oh, is this worth the money? And they're asking $10 for it, regular price, which, you know, you get a laser scan track. That's one of the really fantastic circuits in the world that fits pretty much any car in a Assetto Corsa. And this isn't one of those tracks that you need to be driving, you know, a race car to enjoy. This isn't a track that you need to be driving a street car to enjoy. It fits everything. Brands Hatch is really fantastic like that. As well as you get a wide range of cars. You know, if you're into GT3 cars, there's a couple of them for you. If you want a 1200 horsepower Gallardo in your racing sim, go ahead. That's there too. And if you're a guy like me who wants something slow, unstable and slow and doubly unstable, or something like that too. Like, I feel like the car list is definitely the weakest of the 3 DLCs that have been released so far. However, between the 25 and the 72 here, no complaints. No complaints at all. I'm going to go ahead and shut up here, let you guys listen for a lap. I love those medium RPM, slightly on power, not really on power, that growl. You guys will hear it a time or two. much fun to drive. It's such an enjoyable car to drive. I also really like the fact that they've also included a lot of skins for this car. Because again, for the type of car that it is, I mean, yeah, you might just look at it as a historic Formula 1 car, but I can only suspend disbelief because back then Formula 1 cars all looked pretty much the same, so there was less major discrepancies between them that really puts you off from running a spec Formula 1 car series. So you can run in various different liveries and just kind of turn this into a Formula Slippy Slidey. My only gripe with that, though, is that they left the yellow rims on all of them. But again, that's such a minor little gripe. That will probably, like the Escort sounds, be corrected by the community relatively quickly. So let's give it one more lap here. A little bit too much room. Gobs of oversteer in that corner every single time as you come down that hill. Up through the gearbox. Go with the fast sweeper. There's a pretty big bump right about there. If you're not to the very inside of the track, you will hit it and you're gonna understeer like mad then. In too deep. One more corner. Go ahead and check the lap time, see what we've done. Just sliding away there, losing time. Go ahead and check here at the bottom of the hill after we go ahead and chuck a big slide. And put it in the fence. Just out of my own personal curiosity. Hey, that's new personal best. Woo! Yay, go me. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Seriously, this car's a blast. Bye.